So I just did a Power Rangers video, and I'm getting ready to do the Arrow Season 4 video, but I figured, like, well, I was wearing green for that, and the Arrow becomes Green Arrow in Season 4, so I'm like, hey, in light of that, I'll just keep my green shirt on. Has nothing to do with me being lazy and not want to change. What's up, guys? Mikey here, and welcome to the Comic Junkies Corner. So, Arrow Season 4 is finally on Netflix. Came out earlier than I think they said it was going to. It's been out for a couple weeks now. I think it came out around the same time Luke Cage came out. So, yeah, it's on Netflix now. If you have not checked it out, check it out, because I'm going to spoil the crap out of it, as always, But, open discussion here. So, let's talk about it. So, Season 4. Now, when I've been hearing about Season 4, a lot of people were telling me, like, it's just not as good. It's not as good as the first 3 seasons, or really the first 2. There was people that didn't really like the 3rd season. Understandably, in my opinion, it was like more of like what Ali was doing in the 3rd season. I didn't like the choices that he was making, but that didn't necessarily make me dislike the season. It left me kind of like, what, you did that to me? You did that to them, Arrow? Man, that hurts, man. How you gonna do something like that? But, I mean, it didn't make me hate the show or anything like that. I didn't think it took that much of a nosedive. I mean, in my opinion, Season 2 is still the best one, but Season 4 is probably not their best. It's not horrible. It's not absolutely awful. I don't think it is anyway. Like, some people might disagree. There are some people that have told me, like, it's just flat out, it sucks. But I didn't have a problem with it. I didn't have a problem with it for the most part. We'll get to what I did have a problem with towards the end, but certain new things going on here. There's one thing. Okay, so this is the one thing I did have a little bit of an issue with. Ali has left again at the beginning of the season. He leaves again. He has been... I gotta fix this. Hang on. There's like sunlight coming out of nowhere. Hang on. Okay, sorry about the interruption. I had a little bit of a J.J. Abrams lens flare going on back there. The sun is not supposed to be out right now. It's supposed to be storming and hurricaning later on, and the sun is shining brightly like nothing's going to happen. But anyway, back to the show. We were talking about like what happens early on. Early on in the season, Ollie's quit again. So you automatically know what's going to happen. Some new threat is going to show up. And then they're going to have to go get Ollie. He's not going to want to come back. And something's going to happen. He's going to be like, yes, I need to come back and be the Arrow again. It's like, really? You couldn't have been doing this already? Come on, man. So, but it's just one of those things. Like, I really kind of wish they hadn't done that again, but it really didn't play that big of a role, to be honest. Like, they were there pretty quickly, as opposed to Season 2, when they had to come back, go out and get him, and it took him really a couple of episodes to really, it's like, yeah, I need to be the Arrow. But this time he is away with Felicity. He and Felicity are together. Finally, since it finally happens, they are finally together. And they are just off living a wonderful life. And we have these terrorists that are attacking Starling City. I almost said Coast City. They are attacking Starling City. And they are called the Ghosts. And then the Team Arrow that stays behind, which is Speedy, Thea, Dinah, the Black Canary, and Diggle, what's his name? I still call him Diggle, so I don't really remember what his name is, but Anytime, like, I know he has a name, but like I don't remember what it is. I'm so sorry. I'm a terrible comic junkie, but I didn't have my fix today. Anyway, but yeah, like they're all trying to deal with what's happening, and Diggle really doesn't want Ollie to come back because he's still pissed at him because he kidnapped his wife while he was pregnant. While she was pregnant, while he was pregnant, while she was pregnant, and put her in danger. I'd be pissed too. I'd be really, really pissed. I'm not going to lie. He is completely justified in how he feels. But, there comes a time where, like, he has to set that aside just to, try to deal with the threat that's happening. And for the most part, everyone's kind of forgiven him. Ollie, Diggle has not. Like I said, I understand. I was kind of surprised Felicity forgave him so quickly, but I guess, that's love and stuff. They start out very good together, Felicity and Ollie. And I'll get to, like, there's an issue that comes up later on. I'll get to that. But you do have Thea. Now, Thea in the previous season was brought back via the Lazarus Pit, so now she has a little bit of an issue, and in the terms of bloodlust. So that's another something that has to come up that they deal with and everything. But Ollie and Diggle resolve their issues with each other. Thankfully, it's there. It's very short, and it's kind of like it's a progress. They get over it. You can see like the strain that it puts on the team, but it's not straining it so much that it's like, oh man, they can't function now, and it's like it's not really front and center. It is in terms when they're not in a mission, but not when they're in a mission. It's not like front and center, like in your face, like, oh, this is happening. No, it's really like melded into the show very well, in my personal opinion. Some people might feel differently, but I feel like it was melded into the show quite nicely, and it's over fairly quick, to be honest. It's over pretty quickly. I mean, there is tension between them, but they eventually look, what I did was screwed up, but I had to do something. Even Diggle's wife kind of forgave him. But I think that's from working with Argus too much and working with Amanda Waller. That's just my opinion, but hey, she forgave him, so he's just kind of like, yeah, you know what? Yeah. So that's how Diggle's just like, you know what? I'll give him a second chance. Give him a third chance, or however many chances he's really given Ollie to be the person that he is. And you know what? Dare I say this? Ollie is a likable character in this season. He truly is. I cannot say that for the first 3. I can't say that. Second season, I can kind of say, like, okay, yeah, he does grow from the first season. He definitely does have growth from the first season. But he does some things in the third season that is just kind of like, joining the League of Assassins. He's undercover, but golly, he betrayed a lot of people's trust. And does some things like, I don't think I would have. It would have taken me a while to let it pass. But he, they're pretty much, the Team Arrow is pretty much a family. So there's that. But yeah, after a while, something happens. And if you were watching Flash, now I'm going to say this. If you are an avid watcher of Flash and Arrow, watch these two side by side. Meaning, watch an episode of Arrow, watch an episode of Flash. Episode of Arrow, episode of Flash. Do not binge watch Flash, then binge watch Arrow. It will screw you up. It will spoil the crap out of Arrow. It's not really the other way around. Like, Arrow doesn't really spoil Flash all that much, but Flash dropped some heavy spoilers on Arrow. And I was just like, thanks. I wasn't watching it at the time, but thanks. But, Arrow, Ollie has a son. So, and if you've been watching, you obviously know this, that Ollie has a son that, his mother paid the mother of Ollie's son to go away and not mention it and, do whatever, raise the child, take the $1 million, raise the child. She never cashed the check, but, there's that. And what winds up happening is like Ollie finds out about it because he obviously sees her. She lives in Central City. So when they go to Central City, and they deal with, and they see like who's there, this is another villain. This is, who is this? Who is the villain that they were dealing with at that time? That was Vandal Savage. That was Vandal Savage, who they were dealing with at the time. And it was more so Flash was dealing with them more than Arrow, but it was one of those crossover episodes. It was a series of crossover episodes. I thought it was really cool, but, what happens is Ollie spots the mother of his child, who he actually had cheated on Laurel with, and one of the girls he cheated on Laurel with. But he's an older Ollie. That's an older playboy billionaire Ollie. This is a different Ollie, and he sees that she has a kid, and he's like, that's got to be my son. So he has the Flash to Barry to run some tests, and he looks at him. He's like, man, that's my son. Damn. So he goes to try to figure out what's the what. And Felicity finds out. And certain things happen, and then they get into this argument, and then honestly, a bunch of stuff happens. Vandal wins, and then Barry runs back and resets the timeline. So none of that really matters, but what winds up happening later on in the episode is that the actual villain of the show, Arrow, of this season, Damien Dark, was actually found out via Malcolm Merlyn, because he's a biggest douche you could ever think of. But he finds out that he has a son. So he kidnaps him and uses him as leverage. So in order to try to find him, he needs the help from Team Arrow. And that means everyone has to know about it, including Felicity. And there were certain people that did find out. Barry obviously found out because he went back in time. Somehow, I think because she was digging, Thea found out. But he never told anyone. The condition was his mother said, like, look, you are never going to see your son if you tell anyone about it. I want to keep your life and our life as separate as possible. So when you come see him, you won't even tell his son. Don't tell anyone that you're his father. Do not do that. Otherwise, you won't see him. That was the ultimatum that she gave, because you can kind of ask yourself, what kind of mother would really do that? A mother that wants to do anything to protect her son. And you gotta admit, like, the type of person Ollie was back then, having not seen Ollie for 13 years since then, and was it 13 or 11? Maybe I don't know. One of those. Between 11 and 13, you hadn't really seen him. So, except for probably on TV at times and stuff like that. And even then, he was acting a fool. So, like, kind of putting on the facade and stuff. And, haven't really seen the changes that Ollie has gone through. And it was kind of messed up because Ollie didn't even know. I didn't know that, his mother paid him off. So, like, she makes that assumption the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So if she's that way, then I don't want anything to do with her. I don't want anything to do with you. So you back right off. But if you want to, you're going to have to prove yourself. And that's what I think was like behind that whole ultimatum. It was like, you got to prove yourself trustworthy. You got to prove yourself worthy as a father and a person to me and him before I allow you back into our lives as, the person that you want to be. And, and he had to go through with that. He had no other choice. And, it's like, if I want to be a part of if I want to be a part of my son's life, I have to make this sacrifice. And that includes not telling Felicity. And it's odd because this is a different form of Ollie. Ollie's not keeping the secrets that he used to keep. I mean, yeah, he keeps some secrets, but he only keeps the ones that are like, I mean, it's not even like that he's keeping secrets. They just aren't relevant at the time. Like there's an idol that shows up and he's like, oh, I've seen this before. It was on this island or whatever. And everyone was like, oh, big surprise. There was something you didn't tell. I was like, well, how was he supposed to know it would pop up again? I mean, it's not like he's sitting there having a convention and they're not having like this group therapy session where he's like talking about this kind of stuff. But you know what? He has gotten very good about talking to people and telling people stuff. So this was one of those things that kind of brought it back. Like, oh man, I just got to where I don't have to do this anymore, and now I have to do it again. But I mean, he doesn't have a choice. He doesn't. I mean, look, some people might feel differently about it, but like in my opinion, he just doesn't really have that choice. And you would think that Felicity would understand that. Granted, I would understand her being pissed off about it, but him not telling, and then like other people actually kind of found out, so it kind of feels like she was kind of left out of the loop and stuff like that. And you know, you're supposed to be partners, you're supposed to talk to each other about these certain things, but he made a promise, man. I mean, you can be mad at him. It's like, yeah, I'm mad at you, and I feel like you should have told me, but I understand why you didn't. And there was another thing, like, you know, when he finally gets his son back and he ships them off, like, you know, y'all need to get far away from me because this can happen again. And this can and will happen again. Get far away from me. Don't even tell me where you're going. And she hears that conversation. And like I said, I understand why she would be upset because he didn't even tell her that he was going to do that, or like didn't really consult with her about it. Not that it would have made a difference. There's very few times that I would say like a son needs to grow up without a particular parent, whether that be mother, father, or both. But this might have been one of those times where like the safety, the son's safety was dependent on them being far away without anyone's knowledge, even Arrow's knowledge, because if something happens to them, they got to him once, they'll get to him again if somebody knows where they are. And that can't happen again. So when Felicity, like they are now, at this point, they're engaged. When Felicity breaks off the engagement and severs ties with Ollie, and you kind of knew she was hurt by it, but she played it like she wasn't and tried to play like, oh, we're just teammates now, we're nothing more and stuff. Honestly, that changed my perspective on that character for me. I liked Felicity up until that point, but after that, I was just kind of like, I don't really like you that much anymore. And maybe it wasn't because let me rephrase that. I still like the character of Felicity. I just don't like that she handled that way. Even somebody in the show, like towards the end, even said like, understandable, but you overreacted like big time. And like it said like, yeah, you probably shouldn't have went that far with it. That was a little bit much. But you know, it's understand that you're upset. And I understand that she would be upset about that. Definitely. Is it enough to throw away an entire relationship and engagement and to not only do that, but make him feel like he's an awful person because of it? It kind of ticked me off. It really did. Like, even if like, you know, like, I know it's a TV show, it's not real, but it's like, you can't help but draw emotional ties to certain things that happen in TV shows and movies sometimes. And it's just like, I saw that and it ticked me off. I was just like, why are you being that way? And it's like, no, you say you understand, but you're still going to make him feel like you don't get it. You don't. If you're doing that to the other person, you don't get it. You do not understand. You do not. And like, you say how much you understand, you don't. Maybe it's from personal experience. I don't have a son, not that I know of. I don't have a son or anything like that. I don't have, but I've had relationships. I got out of a relationship to where like I felt like I was I felt like I was a terrible person afterwards. And for a person to tell you that you're not an awful person, but treat you like you are an awful person, and then have other people treat you like you're an awful person, it's kind of like, you don't do that to a person. If they're not an awful person, if you're just like, look, I can't be with you, but it just has to be mutual. Like, look, I can't be with you because this, I'm sorry, but you're not an awful person. And then you proceed to treat them like they aren't an awful person. You treat them just like, yeah, this is awkward, this hurts, but we'll get over it. We'll get past it, And that didn't start to happen until later on. But, at the current point in time, I was like, you are just not being a good person right now, Felicity. I'm sorry. Like, there was even a point where, like, she's like, Arrow was about to go and try to figure out how to beat Damien Dark's magic. And, she's like, I'm coming with you. And I'm just saying, like, no, you're not. You're staying your ass right here and you're not getting anywhere near me. No, not after the way you've been treating me. No, you sit your ass over there somewhere and go type some stuff. I'm going to go deal with this myself. But, I mean, whatever's whatever. I mean, it just is what it is. But it kind of like, I didn't like that particular aspect of the show. And to the point where, like, their relationship was like, yeah, they bickered. Yeah, they argued over the comms and stuff like that. But it wasn't to the point where, like, it was extremely annoying. It was just kind of like, all right, guys, shut up. Things are happening. But it was very meta within the show to where, like, even, like, the people, like, Canary and Speedy and Diggle, they were all just kind of like listening in. It's just like, these people, some people's kids, but yeah, they're just, it was just whatever. And that just kind of produced to me, an undue strain on the show, especially towards the end where they don't really separate. They still had this connection and they still kind of look at each other a certain way. It's just like, why did you break them up? It could have just been that way, and they could have just been like, all right, look, they had a tiff, and they get back together. Not get back together, but, they similar, Ollie and Diggle. Why wasn't it handled that way? That was one of my biggest issues. Why wasn't it handled that way? I didn't feel like it needed to be a breakup and to produce more strain and have more drama where it didn't need to be, because it, in turn, made Felicity's character unlikable. And it will make her unlikable for other things. Now, in contrast, there are certain people that are going to be more. I understand that there are people that are going to see more of Felicity's side than Ollie's, and they're going to see Ollie as still not having grown up, still not having, they're going to agree more with Felicity, so they're going to see Ollie as more unlikable now and stuff. To me, it was like it produced that undue strain that didn't need to be there. But other than that. You have the villain, Damien Dark, sometimes. I say sometimes because literally there's times in the show where he just disappears. He just he goes to jail and they don't hear about it anymore, and then all of a sudden he's broken back out. That was fine because there was other stuff kind of going on at that current point in time. But there's I think the whole the whole Vandal Savage thing, when that came around, he just disappeared. I mean, it was just like, where did he go? What happened? But whatever. He does come back and does stuff. He does some really underhanded stuff. And who those who don't know, I kept calling him M. Bison throughout the entire show because his character as M. Bison in the Chun-Li movie was very close to how he was playing Damien Dark. And, it's not a bad thing. I was just like, it just kind of reminds me of Bison. Like, a lot of stuff he did. A lot of stuff he was doing. A lot of the ways he said things. It was just like, that reminds me of Bison. Reminds me a lot of Bison. I kept calling him M. Bison through the show, so I would forget his name is Damien Dark. But he's a decent villain. He's not the greatest, but he's a decent villain. He's not the strong. Out of the 4 seasons that are out on Netflix right now, he's not the best. I definitely gotta say that what's his face? I'm terrible with names right now, guys. I'm so sorry. Slade. I definitely have to say that Slade was the best villain out of all 4 seasons. Slade is definitely the best. But Damien's probably the fourth. He's probably the fourth. That's not saying he's a bad villain. He was a decent villain. He was okay when he was there. And it's just like, there was times where like you literally would forget, like, oh yeah, he's running around somewhere. There is a death that occurs, and here's what I'm going to get into, like, what I didn't like about Flash. There is a heavy spoiler dropped in Flash that the Black Canary dies. A heavy spoiler. And this is something that's teased throughout the show. There's times where, like, oh, you think it's going to be Felicity. You think it might be Thea. No. And there's times where, like, you're pretty, like, it's kind of setting up Dinah to die in times, but I don't know if that was because I already knew about it or it was because like the show was kind of like heading that way. But you know, there was like times where like there was the whole acceptance, like Detective Lance told his daughter, just like, look, I didn't agree with you being Black Canary before, but I'm proud of you. And stuff. You know, that whole acceptance speech and stuff, and he's just kind of like, yeah, she's gonna bite the big one here. And it even like teases you. That's what kind of like upset me a little bit. It teased you that she wasn't going to die. She got stabbed by Damien Dark for the most part. She got stabbed and it like hit some vital organs and she was bleeding out and had internal bleeding and stuff like that. She had to go to the hospital, have surgery. And then it seemed like she was going to be fine. And then she wasn't. She started, I guess something happened and then she just didn't make it. Now, I will say this. It still hits you. And I will definitely say that Detective Quentin Lance definitely was the person that sold that whole thing. Ollie too, but Detective Lance sold that whole thing and just made it more emotional. Even though I knew it was going to happen, it was like, man... You know, there were times you would see like the anguish on his face, and knowing that they couldn't because towards the beginning of the season they bring back Sarah Lance, which you know the other daughter who died earlier on. They bring her back, and you know she's for the most part completely rage and bloodlust. You know, like I didn't talk about bloodlust, did I? So. I guess before I get into like the whole Dinah dying, I should talk about like the bloodlust thing. The bloodlust was a good side plot. It was definitely a good side plot. It was definitely like something that was not front and center, but like it was of course not front and center. It's a side plot, but it didn't take away from anything. It was something that they had to deal with, and something that grew as the show went on. It was just like you just saw her being a little aggressive. Thea. You saw Thea being a little aggressive at times. To one time, she just all out goes animalistic on Ollie because she's like, you know, he's like, you need to control your anger, and he's just trying to help her. Help/spar, you know, like that typical teacher student. I'm helping you by beating your ass type thing. No, she was not having that. She went full on monster on him to where she was like, "Arr, arr," and it was like scary as hell. You know what? It's like you see a big burly man or whatever just come at you. Arr, you're like, okay, yeah, it's a little scary. The Joker comes at you and like stuff like that. That's scary, whatever. A woman, you know, comes at you. She's like snarling, whatever. You get a little kid. I mean, granted, she's an adult by this time, but she still looks like a teen, like a little kid, teenager. I don't know what it is about little kids, man. You get a little kid and get them to go crazy, that crazy to where they're like animalistic going after you. That's scary as hell. That's scary because it's just like she's a teenage girl. I'm like, I don't want to bust you in your mouth right now. But you scared that. Get off. Maybe that's just me. I'm like, maybe I just like can't. Maybe I don't like kids or something. I don't know. But like when kids, you know, I guess that's why they always have these horror movies when like kids go bad and stuff like that. But you know, she just went full on animalistic in times, and like find out she has a bloodlust, and Malcolm Merlin tries to help to quench her bloodlust by sending people in to kill for her to kill. And she's like, no, I'm not doing that. And then come to find out, whatever curse was on her was kind of abated a little bit by Damien Dark's magic when he actually tries to kill her, and it doesn't work. And it's kind of abated a little bit then, but it's still there. And all I did was just kind of mask it into where like she's going to die if she doesn't kill the person that, killed her for the most part. And thing was like she didn't really die; she just got healed. Sarah had died, so when she came back, she was full on animal. And like I said, not as scary, but she still had all of the abilities. You know, she still has like all the martial arts know-how and stuff. So dangerous, yes. But like I said, Thea was scary shit. Pardon my language, but she was scary. So but how that's resolved is different. Like you actually have a cameo from Mr. Constantine himself. He shows up and helps get Sarah's soul back, but they actually do something different with Thea. And Thea, there is a like a potion or something that one of the members of the League of Assassins had gotten and stuff. And there was that whole storyline. Excuse me, and with involving Malcolm Merlin and the Sarah's ex-girlfriend. So there was that whole thing. It wasn't, honestly, to be honest, it wasn't all that interesting as far as like their beef with each other. Yeah, it did add to the story, but it wasn't like that interesting. It was just kind of like something that was happening. And you're just kind of like, oh, okay, that's happening. I don't care. Because you don't like either one of those characters. You're like, but anyway, they're eventually cured or whatever. But in the process of all that happening, like the girl from the League of Assassins, I can't remember her name, but she destroys the Lazarus Pit so that can't happen again. She doesn't want like anyone to be like Sarah when Sarah was brought back. She was straight on animal. She had no she had some higher brain function, but not much. It was like, okay, if this, for those of you who have not seen the show, I'm hoping you've seen it. But if you have it, think of a zombie that comes back, doesn't really crave brains, but craves murder and blood. Like, I guess like that whole rage thing from 28 Days Later and stuff like that. So picture that, but they can kick major ass. They're like freaking the Jet Li, Donnie Yen style martial artists, ninja that would just come out of the shadows and just won't just like eat you, but just beats the brakes off of you till you're dead. That was Sarah. That's how Sarah came back. Just straight up, just rage and just wanted to beat people up. Beat people to death. That was the thing. So and she didn't want that to happen to anyone else, plus didn't want Malcolm Merlin to be able to revive himself ever again, so she destroyed the Lazarus Pit. So when Dinah dies, they can't bring her back. I mean, there's probably a way, but not right now. Can't bring her back. Unless it ties in with Gotham somehow, and whatever Doctor Strange is doing. Spoilers for Gotham Season 2. So, but yeah. So yeah, she dies, and like I said, Detective Lance really kind of just sold the emotion in that scene. Even though I knew it was coming, it was still kind of hurtful to see how he dealt with it and everything like that. But, he was strong. He was stronger than you would expect him to be, which is good. And, a lot of people, like, really, it hit the team really hard because they lost a member. So it was just kind of like, it was messed up. So, yeah, so that happens. But that brings us to the very end. And I got to admit, it was setting up, the end, the way it was setting up was intense. The way it actually ended. CW, what are you thinking, man? What were you thinking? All right, look. I'm all for a human who has extraordinary abilities. I can't English today. Like Arrow, or Batman, or just any one of the humans, Black Canary, that can hold their own in a team of superhumans for the most part. I always had much respect for like these. That's where they were. Some of my favorite characters were like the humans, not so much the metas. I mean, granted, I love them like the metahumans and stuff. I love like some of the aliens and stuff. But it's just, if I had to choose like who I thought was cooler and better. Like there's people that don't like Hawkeye. There's people that don't like Black Widow because they don't feel like they belong on a particular team because they're not super or whatever. But they're badass. I wouldn't mess with them. Like same thing with Green Arrow, Batman, Black Canary, and these other people that are human that do that hold their own against people that they should probably shouldn't be able to defeat, but they do. And I let it go with Arrow because I felt like he'd been with Arrow season 3, because I kind of felt like, all right, he beat him the first time. He was beat the first time badly, but I guess the second time he'd been training a little more, understanding him a little more, and whatever. It's just kind of one of those like mind over matter type things or whatever. When he beats Damien Dark is BS. I mean, I gotta be perfectly honest with you guys. It was kind of BS. And the main reason was because Damien all of a sudden couldn't use his magic. Like at all. Like he was using it, and then all of a sudden it was just like, oh, and then Arrow's eyes glow, and he's like, oh, it sucks that you don't have magic anymore. And I'm like, wait, why doesn't he have magic anymore? But then he does have magic anymore because he kills someone else who's way far away with his magic. But he can't, and it was like this whole Dark Knight Rises scene at the end. And I was just kind of like, and the way that he dies, he kills him, is he takes an arrow and stabs him. The same arrows that he had been stabbed with multiple times throughout the entire season. What? What? So it was kind of like, man, y'all couldn't come up with something better than that. Y'all had a great setup. I mean, it was like he deployed all of these nuclear weapons and stuff, and the way Damien gets more power is the more people die, the stronger he gets. He like absorbs their souls. He's like Shang Tsung for the most part, right? So like when there was a detonation that was unavoidable. It was going to hit Starling City or another city, and this kind of bothered me too because it was kind of written off later on. But the only choice they had was to move the rock, to change the trajectory of the nuke and send it to another, not the nuke, but like another warhead type thing, and send it to another town. They wound up killing over 10,000 people. It was kind of written off after a while. It was like the emotion was there, and then it was gone. Like it never happened. Like, okay, no one's dealing with this. Like Felicity was the one that did it. And she was sad for a little bit, then she was fine. And I was like, what? She just killed 10,000 people. Like, why? She doesn't just get over that. So, but like, okay, there's something like, so Damien Dark absorbs all of that. He absorbs all of that power. So this is a extremely powerful dude right now. And you're going to sit there and tell me that there wasn't another way? I was full on expecting team up style. Like when Flash took on Reverse Flash, he had help. So I was expecting help. I was expecting the Atom to pop up. I was expecting the Flash to pop up or something. I was actually expecting the spoilers for Flash season 2, even though I haven't done that video yet, but spoilers for that season. I was expecting the Flashpoint paradox to take effect because it was setting it up like, oh man, these warheads are going to hit. And I was thinking like right as soon as they hit, oh, the paradox takes effect. Now what? So I was like, oh, okay. I was kind of expecting that. I was waiting for it, but that didn't happen. They really just had this whole, it came out to like Damien Dark and Arrow fist fighting. Damien ain't gonna beat the Arrow in a fist fight. I mean, the only reason he was beating him before because he had powers and he was stronger, so he hit harder. But all of a sudden, they were like on a same level, and if that's the case, then Arrow's gonna win regardless. So it was kind of one of those like, when you play a video game and you obviously have the boss on the ropes, and all of a sudden they just come out of nowhere and beat you with like 2 hits. Yeah, you call that save 'em game? Yeah, that was save 'em game right there. That was save 'em CW. I was just like, you couldn't come up with something better than that. That's a big gripe. So that being said, and then I forgot the whole subplot with Ollie becoming mayor. That's another thing that happens. I wish they had gone a different route. That's the only thing I can really say. I really wish they had gone a different route. It was disappointing to see that they kind of did. It was kind of lazy, in my personal opinion. It was kind of lazy. I'm not bashing the show season at all. It was still a very enjoyable season to watch. I'll be perfectly honest with you. If I was sitting down watching it again, yes, I would watch it. It was kind of like if you've ever watched Earth's Mightiest Heroes. The last season of Earth's Mightiest Heroes, the ending sucked. But everything leading up to that was like, I was invested in it. I liked it, So I was kind of hoping that, if I could sit down and watch it again, I would. So it's not terrible. It's not awful. It's just some decisions were made that probably weren't the best. And that's going to happen with a TV show that has run as long as they have. You're going to get lazy sometimes. I mean, you're going to just get that. So all I can really hope is that season 5 is better, and that they learn from their mistakes. They're going to try new things. You're going to learn from your mistakes. You're going to make mistakes like that. You're going to make things that are just like, it probably looked good on paper, but when it got to the screen and then people saw it and they were just kind of like, no. But it was kind of like you're beyond that point, so just kind of like, meh. No. But that's going to happen. You gotta roll with it every now and again. You gotta take the good with the bad. There's a lot of good in the season, a lot of good. The good kind of outweighs the bad, but the bad parts come when it's bad. When the bad parts come, like, they're not necessarily bad. It's just bad choices were made. That's all I really have to say about it. Other than that, like I said, if I had the opportunity to sit down and watch it again, if I had actual cable TV, I don't, I just use the internet, but like if I had actual cable TV and it was on, I'd watch it. Might not watch the last episodes, but it's just. But other than that, like I said, hopefully season 5 they learn from these mistakes that they made with season 4, and it gets better from there. But like I said, TV shows, they're going to have their up seasons and their down seasons, and this was not a down season, but if this is their down season, they got a high bar. They got a high bar, I gotta admit, because it's not awful. It's not awful by any regards, but yeah. But anyway, guys, what did you think of? I've been rambling for a long time now. What did you think of Arrow season 4? Did you like it? Was it okay to you? Do you agree like there were some issues that probably like some things that probably shouldn't have been in the show? Some like, did you like the way it ended? Maybe you did like the way it ended and thought it was cool, but I particularly didn't. Just one of those things, like, different opinions. That's why I make these videos, so we can open up discussions and talk about it. Anyway, if whatever you think, put it in the comments below. Let us know, and don't forget to follow my friend Junkie, my friend JJ's blog at 4comicjunkies.blogspot.com. This link will be in the description down below. Also, support us on Patreon. Link is in the description down below, so we can get a podcast started, start bringing you guys more content and stuff like that. And if you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new. And as always, thank you so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video.